Welcome to a brand new episode of Seize the Moment podcast. And we want to give a big welcome back to Mutah Beale, also known as Napoleon. He's a former member of Tupac's rap group, the Outlawz. He's since converted to Islam and he's now a motivational speaker. And he's the co-author of the book, Life is Raw, the story of a reformed outlaw, which I have right here. And Mutah, he also hosts the podcast MU2Q with his co-host Q Kwan, where they talk about everyday topics from hip hop, Tupac, life in LA, Saudi Arabia, and sports. And just want to welcome you back to the show, man. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure, you know what I mean, being back on the show. And I know we've been trying to make it happen for some time. And thanks for being patient with me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. All right, so let's just jump into it, man. So, like, obviously, we know your history in the music industry, and I mean, we know obviously that you've been critical of it. So, what's it been like? So now obviously you started podcasting, and what's it been like? Obviously, comparing and contrasting it to the music industry, and can you tell us a little bit also about your podcast journey in general?
I think the podcast, the music industry, one of the reasons I got involved in the music industry is because I actually felt like I had a voice, I had a message, you know what I mean, that I wanted to put out, and I was able to use hip hop to get my voice out or get my message out. Like most of us rappers that come from the inner city, hip hop started off just trying to, show we was like the journalists of the hood. We were showing the rest of the world what we were going through in our neighborhood. The beauty thing, I pretty much, in my opinion, enjoy podcasting more because when it comes to podcasting, you're not locked in a certain box. You know what I mean? When it comes to a podcast, you can talk about so many more topics. You can have guests on, you know what I mean? Using music, a person is stuck in a genre, whether it's gangster rap or, old school rap or whatever. With podcasts, it's something that you have people all over the world who doesn't even listen to music or listen to hip hop but I don't know who doesn't listen to podcasts. You know what I mean? So I think the audience might be more, vast. You know what I mean? I think you can get your topic out or your voice or your message in a more, calm and a more authentic way, in my opinion. So I think I enjoy being a podcaster. So shout out to Q.
And I was wondering about that. Actually, how'd you and Q hook up? How'd you guys meet?
Bro, you know what? I was on a friend of mine, Chef Hadi. He's from Boston, the Lebanese brother. I was on his Instagram live and I kept seeing him post Q. And he kept saying Q is from LA. And I kept saying, man, what is this Korean dude from LA doing in Saudi Arabia? So I asked him, my man, I said, what is he doing out here? He's from LA. He said, well, he's out here. He's doing some training. He's with the U.S. military or the army or whatever. Oh. And I said, man, bring him by the coffee shop. You know what I mean? So he brought him by the coffee shop and we clicked. And a lot of times we was joking a lot on our IG. And someone seen it, I believe Chef Hadi, he's like, man, the way you and Moot click to Q, he's like, I think you guys should do a podcast together. So Q came to me and I was like, no, I'm not really feeling a podcast. I tried before, you know what I mean? It didn't work out. And he's like, man, let's just shoot one episode. If you like it, we continue. If not, I said, you know what, let's do it. And it's a good combination. We get a lot of people that's, feeling it,
Yeah, man. And I remember you actually had a pretty good podcast the first time around. What happened? How come you just gave up on it?
I don't know, man. I think it's I tried it twice. I tried to do the two Americans and Saudi.
Oh yeah. You had that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried that, and then I tried my own self. I think I'm learning as we go. You know what I mean? I'm learning as we go, and I think Q, he had a little more understanding, and education, and knowledge of how podcasts work. For me, I didn't really know the difference of a podcast, whether I'm just a vlogger. You know what I mean? So now we understand, similar to what you guys doing. We have guests. We ask questions. So now I'm starting to get more and more as a podcaster, more into that field.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Yeah. And then it's like with podcasting, man, because I know obviously we talked about, I think it was the first episode where you mentioned that the music industry was all about control. But is it like that here? Yeah. Do you get to be more creative?
You get to be more creative, you know what I mean? Like, for example, when you're not in a rush, one thing I know about podcasts, and a good thing about, I'm sure you guys feel the same way, that you slowly but constantly grow. That's the most important, you know what I mean? Like, I think I seen you post something the other day or yesterday, one of you guys, where it showed your audience is pretty much all over the world now.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
What I mean?
That was me.
That was you, right? So
yeah.
The good thing about podcasts, nothing going to happen overnight. It's not like music. You can come out with a music and have a hit overnight, but with podcasts, unless you got somebody backing with millions of dollars, or you know what I mean. But most podcasters, we starting from the bottom up, which I think it will make you more appreciative. So I prefer this way. I prefer to be able to sit back and hopefully, God willing, all our podcasts take off, and we can look back at it in the future and say, man, we was patient. We didn't give up.
That'd be so
I feel the same way, actually. Even, I mean, honestly, it's not like where it's some high place compared to where we were before, but honestly,
Yes.
I remember when we started, we had really bad equipment. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what sounded good to people. We didn't know how to market things a little bit,
Yes.
that stuff with the clickbait and knowing how to tag something title. But
I still don't know how to get that part, by the way.
But on it, okay, but
yeah,
you guys
got
pretty good views though. I've seen it's definitely thousands and thousands of views for sure.
But
I was checking out the
Q,
channel
because Q is involved in that. Maybe you guys can also talk to Q because he can give you guys also some insight on how to help reach a larger, broader audience. You know what I mean? So he's in charge of that. Me, I'm the type of, believe it or not, I never listen to my podcast. I do it, and I never can go back. I don't know. I don't like to hear myself talk. You know?
I'm the same. I can't. It hurts to hear I mean, honestly, we talk about great stuff on the show, but it's hard to. Yes. It's like actors. Actors also don't like to listen to their own stuff. Yeah, it's weird. It's like once you said it, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, that's how I like to do it, man. You know what I mean? And your podcast show, man, like y'all showed us love from the beginning, So when I was talking to Sulaiman earlier, and I told him I'm gonna do another interview with you guys, and I was like, man, because they was one of the first who showed us love. Y'all hooked us up in so many ways, so we appreciate that, bro.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Thank you, man. And then, so just to get into the specifics of your show, man. So two of my favorite episodes, obviously, number one is going to be with Sulaiman, of course. But number two is, man, the show that you guys did in the first season with the Outlawz. What was that like for you, man, to reconnect with Noble and Edie?
It was amazing, you know what I mean? Because I think the last time that I spoke with them all together, like all three of us on the platform, or it was the Vlad TV interview. And that was years ago. So to be able to have my own platform to bring it back on, and you know what I mean, I was excited. I think I'm learning as a podcaster, man. I kept cutting them off and cutting them. So when I think I went back and seen that video, and I was like, okay, now I know what not to do on the next interview. But it was good to speak with them, man, because we all grew up. Edie, and when Noble was on the show, he just, if I'm not mistaken, he had open heart surgery. You know what I mean, and they both was on a health. Trip on their health path. Edie lost a lot of weight. He been exercising, eating right. Noble been exercising, eating right. So it's good to see that, we getting older, man. So we got to take care of our bodies and our minds. So it was good to be able to talk to them in a positive, positive atmosphere. You know what I mean? It just shows that we grew up. You know what I mean? We matured. So it was amazing. It was definitely one of our favorite guests.
Yeah, man. And how come you think you guys have such different views of the industry? Because I mean, Noble and Edie is still a pretty big part of it.
I think, the Islam, you know what I mean? You might even have some Muslims that do music and stuff like that. But, when I research Islam more and more, the topic of music and Islam doesn't go together because it's the musical instruments that has an effect on the body, the soul, and the mind. And even non-Muslims did a research and did study and said certain musical instrument, it has an effect mentally on the people and physically. They said there's certain sounds in the music instruments that can make a person feel happy, that can make a person feel depressed. It can pretty much, like, sometimes people wake up depressed and they don't even know why. It's because they listened to a certain sound and fell asleep. In the same way they can say, well, you can take the musical instruments and bring some good benefit out of it and make people feel good, which no doubt about it. And we can compare that to a verse that God says in the Quran when he said about wine. Alcohol, he said, in it, there's some benefit, but the evil outweighs the harm, so refrain from it altogether. So for me, that's how I did the music, you know what I mean? We really don't supposed to be listening to musical instruments. I know some Muslims will come say it's a difference of opinion, but it's really not a difference of opinion. We really don't supposed to be listening to it. And to be honest, from the time that I stopped listening to music, I feel more relaxed. Because there's so many times where I used to be angry, very angry. And I know it was the music, you know what I mean, and the type of music I was listening to and the musical sounds that was affecting me, so sometimes, like, I can go into a mall or I can go into a store because I was a musician and the music is playing, I automatically hear it. And sometimes I tell my wife and them, they like, well, we didn't hear the music, we never even paying attention. And they like, how do you pay? So I guess because I come from the background as a musician, that I can walk past, hear something, they click, and the rest of the day I'm fighting to get out of my head. You know what I mean? So I'm still sensitive to the sound of music, you know what I mean? So, and I notice that sometimes, because I'm a human being, I might go into the store and I might even be trying to fight the sound out of my head. But next thing I know, it might bring back old memories and things like that. And then all of a sudden I feel sad the rest of the day, a little down depressed. So when you start to realize, when you start to read your body and pay attention to it, you start to know what makes you feel good, what makes you happy, and you start to try to stay away from certain things. And so for me, because of my religion, that's why I stayed away from music, listening to music.
I could definitely see the sense to that. Yeah, for sure. Because like we're always taking in some kind of influence, right? But when music is just happening, I mean, that again, like you said, it could influence your emotions, right? Yeah, sure, something good can come of it too. But the thing is, the fact that it has that much of a control on who you are at the moment, right? Why give something that power? Why, if you could control, you know, your exposure to it, then of course I could see the sense in that. Let's not expose myself to this thing, which makes me go up or down. I'd rather be kind of at this more controlled place. I can see that. Makes sense.
Pretty much exactly what you just said. You summed it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And then even going into your book, man, I mean, I remember the story about you feeling like at home with sort of some of the gangsters and the dude, you know, the dudes with the guns and the liquor and the weed and everything. And it's like, that sort of says a lot, man, about how disconnected people are from the music industry, because it's like, I mean, look, I get it on the one hand that that's your home and that's what you're used to. Obviously, familiarity is a strong part of it. But also, you know, a lot of people want to get out of that place. And then here you are, and you're like, obviously 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I'm assuming your kind of perspective was like, yo, these dudes in the music industry are actually much worse than anything I had to deal with back home.
Bro, trying to run away, and I think it was the '90s was a definitely difficult time in the music industry, because it was shifting from the '80s to so-called hip hop into gangster music. Gangster music was new in the '90s. It's not like now where some of these rappers can look back at some of our mistakes, but we was new with it. We didn't know what's going to come after. We didn't know if they was going to ban our music. We didn't know none of these things. Many, you know, vice presidents and governors and government entities try to ban many times the music. So it was crazy, because it literally was people that was from the ghetto. Like when we went to Death Row Records, for example, imagine people from the ghetto, organized gangbangers here, because they set up differently on the West Coast and the East Coast on a payroll. You know what I mean? Most of the time they just like, if I knock this dude out, I might get a rise in my next pay. So it was an environment that I thought I was running away from because I really come from the streets. I know a lot of rappers say that, but I really was on the block with my brothers and them trying to sell drugs. I was around when we had shootouts. I was around these things, you know what I mean? So when I got into the music industry, I thought that, you know, I still had common sense where I knew that life on the streets not going to last forever. Eventually, I'm going to go to prison or get killed. So when I got into the music industry, I said, finally, I'm escaping that. But when I got involved in the music industry and went to, for example, Death Row, man, the studio was the streets. It was no difference. You know what I mean? It was no difference. And I was just like, that's the reality. And I think you got to understand these big music, what we call labels, who are like, especially who's distributing these record companies, they also need to be held accountable. You know, I don't just like to say the rappers need to be held accountable, because you got to understand, let's say you got a young black male or Latin, you know, Hispanic individual from the hood, and he has a chance to get his family out of the hood by doing gangster music or selling drugs, or of course education. But a lot of time, if he have talent in rapping and he can make millions of dollars easily, he's going to go that route. You know what I mean? And these people who's paying the millions of dollars, most of the time, he's not going to take accountability. He's going to say, you know what, I got to feed my family. So it's everybody need to be more responsible, from the artists and the music industry that's putting out this music. Because like I said before, I don't know if I ever heard of a music company that's distributing these gangster music, helping anything in the community. Like I never heard Interscope Records go to the community and set up a youth center, or go to the community and set up a tutor center to help people get, you know, learn how to read or do math or something like that. They just take and give. And once the artist died, they don't do nothing. They don't even pay for the funerals. You won't even hear a record company paying for the funeral of a dead artist on a record label. You know what I mean? So it's crazy, bro.
Yeah, damn it. And so if you could go kind of back in time, right, when you were starting out in the music industry, what would you tell your younger self?
I usually, what would I tell my younger son? That's a good question, man, because, you know, I think, because I look at life, bro, to be honest, all the mistakes that I made, I had to go through that. You know what I mean? And I look at it like I try not to say that I wanted to change anything, because it wouldn't allow me to be the person I am today. Because with hardship comes ease, with you know, falling down and getting back up, you know what to do the next time, not to fall down in that same place. So I think everything I went through was a reason for me to go through that. You know what I mean? I think it shaped me into the person I am today. Because if I didn't go through that as a youngster, I won't be able to look at my kids now and say, stay away from this, don't do that. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate, I might not agree, with the things I went through, but I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Because they was life lessons, bro. You know?
I feel. Wait, hold on, man. So somebody's calling. Who?
Wait, what do you?
Hold on.
Somebody in the room?
Yeah,
somebody else in the room? What's going on over here? Oh, who's that?
Hold on, somebody's
connecting over here.
Try to connect.
Oh, whoa. Oh, hey, so.
Oh, wait,
Sulaiman. What's good? What's good? What's good? How's everything, man?
Everything is good, man. We just chopping it up with them again, man. How's everything, bro?
Things all right, man. Everything's all right.
I love how he's got the university in the background.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's cool.
So, and then Mu, obviously, man, whenever you're ready to go, you just let us know. But all right, so
let me
the
do
first
5 more minutes because I have a little emergency right now. I was telling them Sulaiman, and but I didn't want to really change the interview because I kept telling when we'll be able to do it again. You know what I mean? But let me just do at least 5 more minutes, and then I'll definitely have to go. You know what I mean? I apologize, bro, but I was like, you know what? It's better than me.
No, okay. So since
we're easy, honestly, it's not.
So since we have the both of you on it, this is the first question.
Sulaiman will continue when I get off.
Yeah. So the first question I wanted to ask you guys. So there's something in the works. It seems like with the book, maybe a movie or something.
We working on something, you know what I mean? We ain't gonna really go into details, but we got something that we think that God willing is a company that's very interested in trying to make this book into a series. And so we look at and it's looking good. Like I told Sulaiman before, we both agree when it comes to anything with Hollywood, we don't believe in it until that contract is signed, bro.
Exactly.
And then so Mu, man, can you tell us about, like, since obviously the last time we talked to you was in April, so what's it been like with the release of the book? What's some of the feedback you've received?
The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Like we said, we wrote it in a way where a lot of different people could try to relate, and that's exactly the type of feedback. I mean, we had all different people from all different races, sectors of life, professions, just basically saying like the way the book was written and the stories and the lessons learned from Mutah's life. It's a real human story. So, I'm very proud of him that he was able to share it in such a way, and I'm, happy that I was able to present it in a way that was accessible.
Man, I don't think it was nobody better to write my book, man. I really can't see it no other way. To be honest, I really can't see it any other way that would make it where it's at now. Because like what Sulaiman said, man, I just got a message, I think, from somebody, I don't know what country this was. And he showed me a screenshot of the book. And he like, man, this book touched me. Mike Bibby, I seen Mike Bibby a month ago. He said it again to Steve Lobel. He was telling Steve Lobel, he said, man, this is the first book I picked up and read from cover to cover, to front to back. He said, I couldn't put it down. And the good thing about it, man, I'm just thankful that Sulaiman was able to have that not only he come from the hood, you know what I mean? So he know both sides of the life, coming from the hood, from the educational side as well. And he know the hip hop side, he know the Outlawz, he know Tupac. So he was able to put it together where it's comfortable, it's easy to digest. You know what I mean? Most stories from rappers in their life is hard to digest. I'm 45 years old, about to be 45 years old. I don't think I'm going to pick up a book that sounds like another rap song. I killed this person, did this drive-by. You know what I mean? I'm going to probably close it. So the way Sulaiman did it, where everybody can relate to it. We got old gangsters saying, bro, this is going to make me change my life.
Wait, and then so Mu, before we wrap up with you, man, so what do you want in terms of the book, right? What do you want the message about mental health to be to other people? What do you want them to take away from it?
I want people to take away that don't neglect your mental health. It's very serious, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. Nothing to be ashamed of. You know what I mean? Especially, even though times are changing now for the Black and Hispanic community, but before we used to look down on a person if they go and try to get help or try to go to a rehab or go try to speak to a therapist. In our community, we clown each other for these things. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? A lot of us is walking around with PTSD, and it's serious from what we went through. You know what I mean? From what we went through. So it's very important to not neglect your mental health. It's very important, and don't be ashamed to, if you feel like you need help, go get help. Don't be ashamed.
I love that. All right, Mu, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thank you, bro. I wish I could have stayed longer than that.
All good, man.
Sulaiman, you got to take over, man, because I got last minute emergency. It was an emergency, bro. I even came on late, so I apologize once again. But thanks for being patient. We'll do it again in the future, bro. You know what I mean? We'll do it again. Man. Just one time, and then once, maybe when I'm back in Saudi and I settle in a couple months, we make it happen again.
I feel you, man. Again, thank you so much
for coming on.
Thank you, brothers.
All right,
peace.
Be well, man.
One, you too. Bye-bye.
All right, so what's up with you, man? What you been up to? Give us a rundown.
Man. Everything's all right, man.
the last time we saw you was well, at least on the podcast. The last time we saw you was in August 2020. Man, give us a rundown.
Oh wow, that's a long time, man.
I know. Yeah, but right before the book came out.
You should talk about hip hop.
Well, first let's just give an update for Sulaiman. Give our audience an update. Let us know what you've been up to. Yeah, because he has some great things going on.
A lot has happened in 2 years. I mean, with regards to the book, it was released. It did very well. Sales have been fine. Like we said, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. We were fortunate to have it accepted as a donation to the Universal Hip Hop Museum. So that was monumental. They're not just going to accept anything. So from the book side, everything is fine. In my personal life, I made some major changes. I'm back to the U.S. after being in Saudi for 17 years, which feels like doing a tour in Vietnam or something like that. But yeah, I'm back in America. I accepted a position as director of academic programs at Johns Hopkins. So not a bad landing spot. Back home. And just readjusting the life back home. Just taking it easy and taking it day by day.
Yeah, man. Has it been somewhat of a culture shock coming back?
No, honestly, I've been coming back, over the years back and forth, and actually the past 3 or 4 years I've been coming back more frequently. So, no, I was ready for a change. You're in the country for 17 years. I've seen enough, made enough money. It's time to go back. There's nothing like home.
Yeah, get to go back to the Nets games.
I'm wearing the right hat this time.
Well, you get the Nets and Mets. Yeah. So usually he changes it up, man. He's got both the teams. Yeah, man. And then, so how's it been being in, I guess, back in the academy? What's that been like? What's your day to day?
Yeah, I mean, it's important for me to continue to be at the university level. Just my aspirations. I hope to, become hopefully a dean somewhere. It's important to stay, in that environment. But this job is a lot different than the other ones. The other ones I was teaching, and like responsible for like language development, but this one is really, I'm the director of academic programs at the Institute of Nanobiotechnology. So when I first applied, I had to say that like 3 or 4 times. I didn't know what the hell it was. It's really scientific based, research based, engineering based. It's good to be, back in academia and things like that. But this is like a whole different level of administrative responsibilities. I'm dealing with the NIH, National Institute of Health. I'm dealing director of the National Science Foundation, writing grants, getting like hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding. So I mean, it's been a real challenging but rewarding step up. I'll say that.
Do you think it's too early to talk about your literary project?
No. Yeah, that's also on simmer. We hopefully have something cooking with a movie with the book. But yeah, I myself, I feel like I have, I have a different story. Obviously, not the same as Mo's, but I have a story that's unique in that you have someone who was, born in the hood, really, not necessarily against all laws because it wasn't that bad, but, definitely underprivileged and things like that. And then was given, afforded tremendous academic opportunities. And, by God's grace, I've been able to make the best of them and be in a position, to be at a place like Johns Hopkins, which is exceptionally selective, very competitive. And I have a voice, I have authority, I'm still keeping up with publishing and combating things like racism and discrimination in English language teaching and things like that. So I have a voice, I have the tools to do that. And I think that, my story would be somewhat, unique. It would be interesting. I hope, I think it would be engaging. And there's also a lot in terms of racism that I've faced as a Black man across the world, not here, not in America, which is funny, because some people would say America is one of the racist countries in the world. But funny enough, I've never experienced one instance of racism here or discrimination, whereas the most that I've faced has been abroad. So, and particularly in countries where I wouldn't think I would have experienced that based on my faith, based on the fact that I'm in Africa, and it's like, okay, but, so I think that those are also interesting stories that people need to be aware of because, a lot of people have expectations, what it's like to travel abroad as an American, as a Black American, and, sometimes those expectations are severely disappointed. So I just want to bring those stories to light so that people can just learn from them, you know?
So this is something I wanted to ask you. I mean, I actually personally know you told me about it last time. We had dinner with you and Kate actually, but this might be good actually for the audience too, maybe to know like what kind of what did you experience when you were in Saudi Arabia, for example, in terms of racism and how people treated you there versus even for example.
Yeah, so the thing is you know, and everybody's experience is different. And you know, racism exists everywhere, but in some places it's a little bit more flagrant than it is in other places. Definitely um, a lot more explicit in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, in terms of the racism that I've experienced in Saudi, which is you know, unfortunately one of the countries where I've experienced really the most, it manifests itself in basically how you look, first of all. So if you look African, you're going to get treated as an African, which means that, and this is not across the board, but it's my experience, and so I'm speaking my truth. You know, many times if you're in line or if you had a, you know, customer service, nobody will give you any attention. They'll, you know, skip over you. But the minute I speak English, clear English, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're not African, you're American. How can I help you? This and this and that. Blah blah blah. It's like, like really? Like all I had to do was open my mouth, you know. In general, there's, you know, there's a lot of mistreatment of people from like the subcontinental areas, so like India and Pakistan. I witnessed it myself, and you know, it's just sad to see. You know, sad to see. Number one, you know, Saudi Arabia is an Arab country, and you know, Arabs are, you know, they come in all colors and, you know, shapes and sizes as well. But they're very, you know, a lot of them are brown skinned. So I really can't understand the mentality of, you know, why are you, you know, what's this animosity towards people who look similar to you, you know, and I just don't understand it. And it was really tough the last few years I was there to sort of deal with that and constantly have to affirm the fact that I'm American. That was the other thing, is that whenever you tell somebody you're American, it's like they can't believe it. It's like they're dumbfounded, their mouths drop. They're like, "You American?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm American." They're like, "How?" They're like, "No, where are you originally from? Where are your fathers from? Where's your grandfather from?" I'm like, "Damn, does it have to go that deep for you to accept that I'm American?" So my name is Sulaiman Andre Jenkins. You can't get more American than, yeah, my first name is, you know, Islamic, but Andre Jenkins, you can't get more American than that, you know?
Right.
But unfortunately, there's fixation on, you know, you can't be black with a beard and be American. You know, if you're white, automatically you're American. But if you're black with a beard, there's some, you know, we have to do some investigation. I'm like, dude, that doesn't, you know, it's just a waste of my time, you know?
No. Yeah, and it's like it's so implicit that people can't even see how much it would hurt another person. Like for them, it's like, oh, I'm just asking a basic question, when obviously there's so much subtext to it.
Right. Yes, it's what they call in linguistics, we call it microaggressions.
Right.
So it's a microaggression. You know, basically, I'm by me asking you where you're originally from, I'm telling you that I don't really think you're American. You don't look like an American. Stop impersonating. You know, and that's, you know, it would be one thing if I heard it one time, one off time, maybe once a year. It was literally everywhere I went.
Right. Yeah, and it's like we were just talking with Mo about his experience in the music industry, and he was saying something, not exactly that, not exactly what you're saying, but something kind of similar, where he was saying essentially that you had people like rappers, you know, young rappers who were getting killed, and essentially, you know, they're making money for this industry for other people, and I mean, other people were chronically and pretty much the entire time they were benefiting way more so than these young dudes, and then the guys would get killed, you know, whatever, they get into trouble, they get arrested, go to jail or whatever, and they wouldn't even sort of bat an eye at it. They would just move on to somebody else. So it's sort of like this sick industry where we can kind of benefit from you, right? We could benefit from your labor, but then when it comes time to actually like caring for you and actually giving a shit about you as a person, right? That's not how capitalism here works. So it's just so crazy, man.
It is, and it's really, like I said, it's really disheartening, you know, especially when one of the main reasons why I went to Saudi Arabia was because I had such high expectations. I read the biography of Malcolm X, and he spoke highly of it.
Yep.
I believe Muhammad Ali went there before. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he did. He met what's his name? Yeah, he met Malcolm X there at some point. Yeah, they had like that split, and then they ended up meeting up again. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, the as a Black American Muslim, I thought that the experience would be overwhelmingly positive. We'd be welcome, and it couldn't have been any different. And I've been there I was there for 17 years. So when it first happened in the beginning, I sort of just brushed it off, like, oh, it's not really the case. But the more I lived there, the more it became salient that this is just how the people think, and you can't change that, unfortunately. So it's like, if I'm not welcome here, then I might as well go back home.
Yeah.
And going back home is not, that's not a bad alternative to come back to America.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you feel like you like a lot of stuff here, so that's really cool. I mean, obviously, we've hung out a bunch of times. We just went to the hip hop museum, which was really dope. Yeah, tell us your experience, man.
That was amazing, man. I mean, we had the book inducted into the as an exhibit, and I had been corresponding with Rocky, I forget his last name, who's like one of the head managers. It turns out his son, when we walked in, he was actually the tour guide. So
yeah.
It was cool.
So funny. By the way, and I've been like hitting him up on Instagram and like Twitter or whatever. I didn't even know that it was him. And so I come up to him and I'm like, oh, by the way, so Saul has a book here. And he's like, oh, I know. And I'm like, what? How do you know? And he's like, dude, I talked to you on Instagram. I'm like, oh, it's you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was like, he was like, yeah, it's great for you guys to finally make it here. And at first, Leah and I were looking like, okay, yeah, great. But
they're like, who is this guy? Like, how does he know us? It's like great for you guys to make it here. Like, why? Who?
And as we're like tagging and posting on Instagram, the museum is liking and reposting right away.
Yeah.
Doing it right then and there.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's happening.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, it's this guy. Yeah. And he was such a dope dude, man. So like, he had like this. So he, first of all, he was super enthusiastic, which I really appreciated. And then like, as you're looking at different materials, like let's say LL Cool J's, Run DMC's clothes, jackets, whatever, he's actually coming up to you and like giving you the background info about it. And then when you're like pointing something out, like we saw a picture of Pac from Digital Underground from like 1990, and then he gives us like this backstory on this photo, and he's like, look, as you see the number, and it says like Tupac as in T-O, like Tupac, right? Because he misspelled it, and then his number, and then he's like, that was actually his number at the time, and it was like just like a memo given to somebody. And I look at Saul and I'm like, oh, bro, you want to call Pac?
Holy shit, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah,
it was really nostalgic, just to see, like, they had all these like old TVs and stuff like that. It's like, man, I remember this stuff when I was a kid. It's amazing to have it on exhibit and see it. And we saw like handwritten letters of some old school rappers and things like that. It was just really amazing to just see all that stuff. And I guess we're really looking forward to the 90s exhibit, which will be coming up next, and so we can really finally see like the 90s age of hip hop and rap.
Yeah, cool. What's so cool is that they have like so they have, what are they called? Oh man, what do you shit, I wish I was an actor or something. When you go to a set, like what are they, props or whatever? I guess props, whatever. So they would call it props on the set. So they literally had a bunch of props from like different shows. So they had the whole background to Yo MTV Raps, like the actual background. So it was like the original, like the window, whatever, ornaments. I don't know what they call it. I suck at design. I don't know what they call it. Whatever. So they had like the actual like windows with the ornaments on it. It has like the sticker with Yo MTV Raps. And then like they even have VHS tapes that I've never seen before. So Saul was like, oh dude, I grew up with these. I'm like, bro, I've never seen these before.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a great experience.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks for taking me.
Yeah, you got it, man. Yeah, and then the TVs, the TVs were so awesome. They were literally like from the early 80s. So
old
it's like
school, like CRT TVs, like the big, gigantic.
And even the small ones, like the portable ones. It was hilarious. It was like the one in the TV. I mean, in the kitchen, like on top of the refrigerator.
I hate to ask this weird question, but did they have like Betamax over there too?
I don't even know what is that.
You don't know Betamax?
I have no idea what that is.
We're the same. I'm actually younger than him, so I shouldn't know what Betamax.
I don't know what that is.
But no, my brother grew up in the 80s. So like, for example, before there was VHS, there was something that was for a little while, something called Betamax. And that would be how some people watch some videos and stuff like that. I have no idea what a Betamax player looks like or anything like that. But that's why I'm just like, do they have that too?
Wait, Saul, you've heard of this thing?
I've heard of 8-track, but I've never heard of Betamax.
I feel all right. I'm dating myself. I don't know where I'm getting my information from. I gotta Google this later, but
And like the old VHS, so the VHS tapes, the ones that I'm used to are like, the black ones where it's like you put on those are not the ones they had. They were silver. Yeah, they were silver with a black top. And I'm like, I've never seen that before. Yeah, so wild, man. Well, so if you had to kind of choose like one or two things, what were some of your favorite exhibits there?
The exhibit with the West Coast was cool with Dr. Dre and Ice T. I mean, sorry, Ice Cube.
Ice Cube,
That
yeah.
was cool to see all that stuff. And then the letter, the one where there was a letter. Yeah, one guy, I forget who it was, man. It's a shame. But he was basically writing how he was in a group and
They ripped him off.
they ripped him off and stuff like that. And he had it all written out. He's like, we joined this group, and they were supposed to give us money, but they did this and that. So that was, that was cool to see. And then also in that same exhibit, they had like a whole bunch of old cassette tapes, which were like what they call mixtapes or
Yeah.
sampling tapes of all the work that this group did. It's just amazing, man, to see that's what that's what the origins were back in the days, and it was so classic. We didn't have digital anything, and you have all these, they had like cassette albums, what I mean, like this big thick thing and nothing but cassette tapes. And it's like, dude, who in the world walk around with a cassette album these days?
Yes, yeah, I've never seen those before. Yeah, it's literally a
Yeah.
cassette album. So it's like you would put like your discs in, but it's 4 cassettes. And it's
Yeah.
like, what are you first of all, it's heavy. I'm like, what are you supposed to do with it?
Like that thing.
Yeah.
There was people who used to carry a big
boombox, yeah.
Yeah,
But at
saw
least
that
there's
too.
some use.
Right.
It's like it's music
Right.
coming out of it. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay, that I can picture. But like imagine carrying around like a briefcase of cassettes.
Right.
Somebody
Like,
did it for sure. I know somebody
Yeah.
100% did it back in the day.
Yeah, little kids now, they wouldn't even see the logic of that. Like, why would you do that? When you
Yep.
They'd be like, I have everything in here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. Imagine they're like, yo, screw these guys like in the future.
Exactly.
Well, so and then tying this into your book, man, because you covered hip hop a lot. It wasn't just Tupac, or what, definitely wasn't Tupac. It was mostly a Mutah Beale story, but it wasn't just Mutah Beale, it wasn't Tupac, it wasn't the Outlaws. You covered the whole sort of milieu in which they found themselves, right? So we're thinking like hip hop from probably late 80s to like, let's say mid to kind of, I think, late 90s. So can you tell us about that? What went into your decision to actually cover what was going on in the industry at the time, as opposed to just making an outlaw story?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, and to me, that this is a lot of challenge that I'm having right now with my own book. Um, before you write, you really have to have an idea about what you're trying to achieve, why you're trying to achieve it, who you're trying to reach. And I knew that, talking to Mutah, I knew that his story in and of itself, it was just so live and so rich with tragic stories and things like that. I knew that was that was going to write itself. But I also wanted, as a researcher, I also wanted to take the opportunity to tie in whatever I could that was relevant to his life at the time, because regardless of whether Mu recognized it or not, he is a part of hip hop history, and he's a notable figure in hip hop rap history. So I didn't want this to just be a book about someone's life. I also wanted it to be like a history book, in terms of people being able to read it and learn about all the things that was going on, all the things that led up to his era of rap. And it just so happened that rap took off just a little bit before he was born. Not that long, not much longer before he was born. So that was a perfect segue to talk about the introduction of rap, what it served in for Black communities, how it exploded, on the scene, all the early hip hop artists, and then to relate that to see how he fit in that as it's starting to blow, and then it grew, and then it blew up on a monument, like a global level, with Pac and Biggie and Jay-Z and things like that. So it was just too juicy of an opportunity to not include that stuff. And it didn't take much extra effort to just look here and pull here, and a lot of things too. I was born in that era, so a lot of things I knew just naturally and instinctually. But it just took a little bit more effort to search here and do that. And the result is, I think the Hip Hop Museum really appreciated that aspect of it, that was really historical and well documented, and so now, it's going to be in the in the Hip Hop Museum. But I also hope that it would be, it's also written in a way where it could be taught in schools, because it has a lot of different avenues that you can examine the book, from, I mean, if you want to have I mean, Nas is studied in school, he studied in university. His life is studied, Tupac's life is studied.
Pac's definitely.
Yeah, so why not, why not have Mu, why not have his life, studied in university in the context of what he went through, but also in the context of how his life relates to, you know, Black America and hip hop and rap. So, like I said, it was too juicy of an opportunity to pass up, and that's why I included it.
Yeah. And then, so what do you love most about hip hop?
I mean, honestly, it's the poetic nature of it. You know, I myself, I'm a writer, um, and I just love how they play on words, man. It's just unbelievable how you play on words, play with words, and create these compelling stories and narratives, and it's all rhythmic, it all rhymes. You know, I studied Shakespeare as well in college, and basically when I got to college, I hadn't studied. I studied Shakespeare in high school. Before I got to high school, I never studied Shakespeare, but when I got there and we started learning about, you know, how poetic it was, I was like, oh, this is the same thing as rap. It's no different, you know. Um, it's just that this is codified, you know, from centuries ago, and rap just came on the scene, but it's the same exact, you know, idea of just playing on words, and you know, the creative potential is just infinite, you know, infinite, you know. I wouldn't say that about now. I have, you know, I'm going to keep my mouth shut about the rap that I hear now. It just doesn't seem to have much purpose, or, you know,
There's no
any,
soul.
yeah, no soul, no messages other than, you know, how much money I have, how many women I'm with, how many clubs I went to, you know, how many cars I have, and you know, how much crack I sell. I mean, okay, if you know, little this said that, little that said this. I mean, every little says the same thing. It's, you know, just so I just don't get it these days. But back in the days, you know, they really have really strong, you know, positive messages to give to people in general, but particularly to, you know, Black Americans about, you know, just the you know, what life is like, and the struggle, and keeping your head up, and you know, being respectful, and just, you know, speaking truth to power and things like that. So, you know, it'll always have, you know, it always have a special place in terms of, you know, just how powerful it was, and how much, you know, I listened to it a lot when I was younger. And you know, there's certain things you just can't forget, you know, and it's very powerful. I think it's lost a lot of that now, but it is what it is.
Question: do you think that it's lost now, or that is just not promoted in the mainstream? Because I don't know, I have a feeling like there's people who still have that
Oh
soul,
yeah. Oh yeah.
but
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Like, yeah, yeah, that's the thing. So basically, like from what I hear, the whole rhythm of rap has changed. Like, it's not as slow as it was before, and it's, you know, the people, they're just not talking about the things that they talked about before. Um, I have heard like recently, you know, a few rap lyrics from a few underground guys, but they're underground, and when I listen to them, it's like, oh, this guy really is intelligent, and he's speaking like
Mm.
lyrically. He's lyrically intelligent. He's not
Right.
just saying, you know, I walked to the bank, I took a tank, you know, I'm gonna eat snake, you know, just saying nonsense. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
saying, okay, what did I just benefit from what you just said right now? Absolutely nothing. As
Right.
opposed to somebody who's actually saying some real stuff in a poetic way, and you know, stuff that resonates, has a message. I just don't think that those kind of people are, and I just don't think it's marketable anymore, you know. So
Yeah.
you just have to get with the flow. I mean, like even Eminem, you know, he's had to change his style and flow to match how people are rapping now, because how he used to rap is not the same. It's not the same flow and style. It's like you have to be like mumble rapping, you know.
Right.
Now. That's like the new genre, you know. So, you know, it is what it is. Things change, you know, but you always have oldies but goodies, you know.
Yeah,
Mm.
I always mention I don't remember the name of the album, but Ti a couple of years, not even a couple. I think this is now a decade, probably even plus. So yeah,
So
not
much
even a
more than a
couple.
couple.
Yeah, he came out with like specifically like it was tailored to an album to Black Lives Matter. So the idea was they were all sort of politically in tune songs, and it was more so about like I don't know, I don't want to call it consciousness raising because I don't think that that's how he would describe it, but it was mainly songs to, you know, it was meant to uplift, right? So it was a way to empower people, uplift them. It was a way for them to become socially conscious. And yo, it bombed, man. And he says it.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, man. He's like, yo, I knew that it was gonna bomb as soon as I put it out. I don't even think it was distributed by a major label. I think he just did it himself. But it completely bombed. And he's like, yo, you know what? I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna put out an album like everybody else's and like I've been doing, and you know, just another one that's gonna be forgotten in a year or two, or do I do something that's at least gonna be memorable to some people? And he chose the latter.
Right, right. I mean, at some point, man, you know, you just have to, you either go with the crowd or you go with your heart, you know, and I'll always choose to go with my heart, you know. So I don't, you know, kudos to him, you know.
Yeah.
If bombs, it bombs. If you want to change up your style to make money, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, you know. But I just, like I said, I just can't, I can't understand what they're saying half the
Yeah.
time, and then when I do understand what they're saying, they're not saying anything. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. And then the book that you guys obviously wrote, super uplifting, man. It's one of those things where, I mean, obviously taught in the classroom and getting to understand what the environments were like, great. I mean, obviously we want that. But then also, again, going back to that Tupac statement, man, of that kid living that thug life. That's what I appreciated the most about the book. Like, it was so empowering for just some kid, man, just some random kid who will pick it up and think like, oh my God, here's this guy, obviously Mu, who's exactly like me, who's pretty much the kind of epitome of what I am going through in terms of what he was going through and what his life was like, and feeling like I have nothing to offer the world. Obviously his parents were killed, wondering who's going to take care of me, who the hell even loves me. And so, damn, man, that was I'm sure you guys somewhere down the road are going to get comments. I bet you anything, watching 10 years you're going to get some kid who's like in his 20s at the time, who's going to be like, yo, I read this book when I was like 13, 14 or whatever, and it changed my life.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, those kind of comments, when we do get them, it really, really touches me, because that was the intent from the beginning, is to really present his story and package it in a way where it just resonates, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Obviously the closer you are to his environment, the more I think it will resonate. But we just hope that people could appreciate it, and recognize the value in his story. And I think we achieved that. So I'm just happy it's done, and looking forward to the next project.
I love that. All right. And then, so as we begin to wrap up, first, I want to give a shout out to Andy O'Farrell, because I'm going to ask a question that he normally asks to end this podcast, or shows, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So top 5 hip hop songs of all time for you.
Top 5 hip hop songs of all time. Okay.
It's going to be a tough one.
It is. I'm going to have to keep it, I guess, as PG rated as possible.
Hey, not on our show, but it's up to
you. Dear Mama, definitely.
Yep.
Dear Mama. White Man's World. If I Rule the World, by Nas.
Classic.
Brooklyn's Finest, by Biggie and Jay-Z. How many was that? That's 4?
4. One more.
One more.
We got to get one with Napoleon on it.
Not Rock Block.
No, never mind. Well, Napoleon's All Out. Yeah, All Out. Yeah.
Wait, which one?
It's called All Out. It's
yeah.
With him, Napoleon, and Napoleon, Tupac, and
Edie. I think. Oh, Edie wasn't on that one.
No.
Oh, I thought he was. Yeah, man.
He might have been the hook. Yeah, the chorus.
Yes, he was. He was the hook. Yeah. All Out.
Passion was the third one.
Such a hard song, man. That was like one of those, like, because it was on it was like one of the what was it? Yeah, the kind of what's the word? Posthumous, whatever. Yeah, it was after he died. What is it? I'm still not gonna remember the second.
After somebody died.
Yeah, when somebody died. Yeah, so it was one of the later Pac albums. So so like many people don't know about the song because that was like when they already stopped kind of doing videos for him. But yeah, man, All Out was so hard. Even Napoleon's verse was so disrespectful. I'm sure he knows it's so disrespectful on it.
Crazy. I definitely listened to that a lot when I was, younger and just brash and just, just a raw, teenage guy. It's just a lot of testosterone in that track.
yeah, man. And then with Napoleon, I still can't believe. So one of my favorite songs of all of the Outlawz is "The Good Die Young." I can't believe like Napoleon can say he was on that song. Not only was he on that song, but he and Pac, their verses were virtually as good. So like it's hard to even really say which one was better, but both of their verses were amazing. And I was like, wow, man, like this dude can literally say that to Leon he had one of the greatest songs of all time. All right, so man, it was so great having you on, man.
Yeah, man.
Right at the end. I love that.
We got a little lag here. We'll tell you what. So to everyone who's listening right now, we're definitely going to post where you can follow Mutah, where you can follow Sul. It was a pleasure having both of them on. This was amazing. It was a cool get a pop in from Sul too. And you know what? What do you think? Give it another second for him to pop back in?
I think this is it. But that's hilarious. That literally right toward the end. That's actually perfect. In some way, the God smiled.
No worries. Then in that case, guys, if you want to follow us, you can follow us at Seize the Moment Podcast.
Wait. I think he's coming back. Oh, he's back. You're back. Yo, but that was like right at the end. Right at the end. All right, so man, it was I think it's gone again. That is hilarious. We should actually leave this in. This is funny.
No, I think this is great. Yeah. So again, guys, if you want to follow us, you can follow us at Seize the Moment Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, at Seize_podcast on Twitter. You can like, subscribe,
hit the bell.
Again, we're gonna post where you can follow Sul, where you can follow Mutah. Oh, and we got Sul back.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good, man. All right, thank you so much for coming on, man. Really, right at the end, they got cut off.
Yeah, sorry, man. It's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on. And once I get moving on, the next book project, I'll definitely, inform you guys. Hopefully, I can be on again.
Absolutely, man. Where can we follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Sulaiman Jenkins, and on Instagram on Sulaiman Jenkins BK. They deleted my old account, unfortunately. Makes no sense, but yeah, my new account is Sulaiman Jenkins BK.
So weird, man. All right, man. We'll be in touch with you soon. Thanks so much
man.
again.
Take care.
Hey, I gotta sign your book,
Alan.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He has it right here.
I got it right here. I got it right here. I'm gonna bring it, man. Take care.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Please.
All right, guys. So again, thanks so much for watching. Again, you know where to find us. Like, subscribe,
hit the bell.
See you next time.